And he thinks that's funny. He laughed about it. What a sick...
Well, that was Biden during a speech around the anniversary of January 6th this year, clearly almost saying his unfiltered thoughts about Donald Trump and then holding himself back. Well, now we are getting reporting that fills in the rest of that sentence. Very interesting from Politico, the West Wing Playbook specifically. What Biden really says about Trump behind closed doors. It's titled, President Joe Biden has a reputation for salty language behind closed doors, but it nearly slipped out in public during his speech at Valley Forge last month to mark the 3rd anniversary of the January 6th insurrection. Animated and angry, he derided Donald Trump and his followers for drawing glee from political violence. In private, he doesn't stop short. The president has described Trump to longtime friends and close aides as a, and I do have to censor it just the way we do the show, but sick F-bomb, as they say, who delights in others' misfortunes, according to 3 people who have heard the president use the profane description. According to one of the people who has spoken with the president, Biden recently said of Trump, quote, "What an effing a-hole the guy is." And I thought Joe Scarborough had an interesting response to this on Morning Joe. Take a look.
You know, John, a lot of people, well, first of all, we'll have you talk about your reporting. But what I think why it's so important is because people are always asking, why is Biden running? Why is Biden running? I don't understand. He should have quit. He should just do his 40. He's running in part for the same reason he ran the first time. That was because of Charlottesville. And he's running this time because he thinks Donald Trump is a sick fella and thinks that he's bad for America, thinks he's terrible for America. And just bluntly, he doesn't think anybody in the Democratic Party can beat him but him. And I think this may be one reason why the White House probably should let him out more. There's been concerns that he's not getting out, he's not doing enough stuff, he's not answering enough questions. All right, so if he makes a mistake, he makes a mistake. Like, Andy Card told Barnacle one time that the thing that people didn't get about Bush was when he bumbled around and wasn't perfect, wasn't Ronald Reagan. I'm talking about 43. Andy Card said it made him more relatable. Yeah. And some of the polls that made him more, he wasn't speaking in flowery language. Like, people felt like, okay, yeah, he's one of us. Well, that's Biden. So let Fox News make fun of him because he has the same stutter he had since he was 14 years old. But go out and show flashes of anger.
Yeah, I do think that these sorts of stories make Biden more relatable. Obviously, I don't think he should go out in a speech and necessarily use those phrases, but letting people see a little bit more of that genuine anger and those genuine emotions, I think, is really good and connects with people. One of the things I talked about yesterday and got a lot of feedback on was my feeling that too much of the media and too many Democratic politicians are interacting with this current moment like it's normal. When you're used to acting professionally in every situation and using language that reflects a lack of urgency, then people will assume that's how they should feel about the moment. Oh, people are sort of acting normally, politicians doing their politician things. But as we talked about yesterday, this is not a normal moment. This is an election about the very existence and sustainability of our democracy and rejecting an authoritarian leader. And so letting Biden give more of those real raw thoughts about Trump, obviously, again, not all the way to what I read you, but more of it, I think, might convey the message more effectively to people. This is Donald Trump, a vile, low-character person, a civilly liable rapist who did joke about Paul Pelosi's attack, who did sit back and refuse to act as his followers beat police officers, who did try to block the peaceful transfer of power through numerous fraudulent schemes, emphasizing his willingness to just throw out our democratic process in service of him. He's called for the termination of the Constitution. That guy with that record and that character should enrage you. And so I hope Biden does go out and speak a little bit more off the cuff about Trump specifically. He's known to be off the cuff, but he actually does moderate himself a lot when it comes to speaking about his opponent compared to how he feels, I'm sure, in private, and as this seems to reflect. Now, while Donald Trump rightfully makes Joe Biden very unhappy, here's something that will make him pretty happy. A Fox News correspondent, Peter Ducey, reporting on a really good new poll for Joe Biden.
The trends here may be changing because former President Trump, has been leading national poll after national poll over President Biden for the last couple of weeks, but not in this one. And maybe it's an outlier, maybe it's not, but Quinnipiac has Biden up on Trump 6 points, 50-44. The Biden team has been trying to pivot to general election mode. They've been focusing on abortion access and on union jobs. And the Trump team has spent the last week or so dealing with his legal issues. This poll does have Haley doing better against Biden than Trump. She has got him, according to Quinnipiac, by 5, 47-42 nationally. But this is a matchup that's unlikely to happen based on current polling that puts Trump way ahead of her in primary states that she needs at the moment. And we may also have an answer to the question, who do third-party candidates hurt? Ultimately, according to this poll, they hurt Trump because both Biden and Trump lose support when polled against the major third parties. But Biden still wins in this poll. And if RFK Jr. continues pulling in 14%, he is certainly going to be a spoiler for one candidate or another because that is a huge percentage of the voting public. Back to you.
That's an outlier, though, right? Because 8 other polls show the opposite.
We'll see.
It could be an outlier, or that could be the start of a new trend. We don't know.
And Peter Ducey mentioned twice, which was very interesting, that this could be the start of a new trend. And we talked about this on yesterday's bonus show, but I don't know if this Quinnipiac poll specifically necessarily is the start of a new polling trend that we'll see play out over the coming weeks. But I do think that eventually that's going to be the trend we observe. Whether this is the start of it or not, as people start paying more attention to the election, as more accept that the matchup is going to be Trump versus Biden again, as the Biden campaign actually starts revving up their campaign mode as they're starting to do, and Trump is spending most of his days in court, we are going to see a slow, steady polling shift in Biden's direction. And by election day, I think things will look pretty good. I also think coverage like what I'm about to show you will help Biden come election day. Biden's currently, the context for this clip is he's currently, as we've been talking about, trying to get a border deal through Congress. But Republicans are openly admitting they want to hurt Biden politically by not letting him get something accomplished related to the border that they've been begging for. Since we're in election year, it's really important for them to hurt him in their minds. And it's obviously disgusting and raging. Here was Abby Phillip on CNN breaking it down.
The same sentiment extends over to that border bill that bipartisan senators have been working on. Now, as you know, Donald Trump is sabotaging it because he doesn't want to hand Biden a win during an election year. And House Republicans are falling in line.
Why would we do anything right now to help him with that 33%? Do you believe if Joe Biden's approval rating was at 53%, we would even be talking about the border?
So after demanding that Biden do something about the border, Republicans are now condemning him for doing exactly that. And they're refusing to help because it may help Democrats. And so for the group of Americans elected with the task of governing, they're failing spectacularly. And they're doing so for political purposes, which makes Biden's message to both parties today at the National Prayer Breakfast all the more ironic.
At a moment of deep division in our nation, President Lincoln said, "We are not enemies." He said, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies."
So I've been happy to see cable news call out the ridiculousness of this Republican stunt. Sometimes, the both sidesism can be so present in this sort of coverage that it can be like, Biden says Republicans are blocking him, but hey, Republicans say Biden's Satan, so who could really know? But not on this. It's been good. I approve. And Americans who are upset with Biden over the border will hopefully see coverage like this and realize it's the ones who have been screaming the loudest about the subject at hand here that are actually preventing action on it. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you can become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. And podcast listeners, make sure to rate and review the show.